Okay, let's play a game. Close your eyes and imagine a comfort read. What do you picture? Or what elements go into a comfort read? What is comforting and why? For example, for a lot of fans of fantasy fiction, that was amazing alliteration. Cozy fantasy is a genre in and of itself. Books that are set in a fantasy world but have very low stakes. Books full of warm and lovable characters who are living cozy cottagecore lives. A genre of fiction that's often considered cozy or comforting is mystery fiction, the works of Agatha Christie. And that's because her books behave like puzzles. A lot of people traditionally like to do jigsaw puzzles on a rainy Sunday afternoon. An Agatha Christie novel is kind of like a jigsaw or a crossword. There is a puzzle there to be solved. And they often take place in exciting situations or small towns. And you are presented by the author with all of the things that you need in order to solve the puzzle, and then you go along through the story with a cast of caricatured and charming characters, and you solve the mystery together while having a few laughs. For so many of us, cozy fiction makes sense as a cozy thing. So many of our favorite cozy reads are cozy for a reason. But what if? What if your ideal cozy book is a grim, dark fantasy novel about a traumatized and psychopathic teenage boy who raids, murders, and pillages, who executes his friends and comrades without sparing a thought, who will maim and torture anyone who gets in the way of his goal. And what is that goal? To ascend to the throne, first of king, then of emperor, in order to rule over everyone and everything as the ultimate tyrant in a world that is sick and populated by only terrible, broken people. A world described with such poison and malice that it feels as though the sun never rises, and even when it does, it makes no difference. What if that is your cozy read? You might think yourself unhinged. You might wonder what's wrong with you. You might think yourself some sort of edgelord. You might be me. Because what I've just described is this book here, Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. The first in a trilogy, followed by King of Thorns and Emperor of Thorns, so spoilers for how that goes. And sometimes I think that there's something a little bit broken inside of me because of how much I enjoy this and how cozy I find it, and how once every few years I decide to reread this book because I find it so cozy. And why do I find it so cozy? What's wrong with me? Well, let's explore that together. Or not, because this isn't really about me. This is about unhinged comfort reads and why we enjoy them, because I'm not alone here. There are people watching this video right now. I can almost see you. And you have weird, unhinged comfort reads as well. I know you do. I sense it. I feel it. The edgelord energy moves between all of us. We are just as wild as each other. We've all thought about getting a tattoo of the Joker. And we all have weird, unhinged things that bring us a strange sense of cozy comfort. And we don't know why. And I'm starting to question it. So, I did what anyone with a wonderful Patreon community does. I reached out to my patrons and I asked them what their strange, dark, unhinged, upsetting, and frightening comfort reads are. Because I knew I wasn't alone in this. And if you'd like to be asked strange questions like this that will feature in upcoming videos, you can also support me on Patreon. I ask my patrons for a lot of input, I always take their input on board, I ask them a lot of strange questions, and I often feature their answers in videos like this one, as you're about to see. So if you'd like to join this community and answer some of these fun questions and be part of my videos, then you can support me on Patreon. Thank you so much in advance for your help. So what did they say? What input did they have? Well, I was surprised and also not surprised by some of the answers. Let's go through them. Let's find out how unhinged we all are when it comes to our favourite cozy books. Cozy books. To start with, I had a sneaking suspicion that Boy Parts by Eliza Clark would be somebody's pick for this. Either her books or those of Sayaka Murata. Both unhinged and upsetting authors who write unhinged and upsetting things, and yet there's something cozy about them. And, well, Ollie Jeffrey said Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. It's acerbic, violent, and miserable, but there's something cathartic about reading about someone else's terrible behaviour. Perhaps it's the same itch that true crime scratches, but with jokes about Morrissey. There's also the comfort in knowing that I love it and I'm going to have a good time with it. Yes. That's a really, really important and interesting point that I haven't brought up because I didn't think of it. Ollie did. I read Prince of Thorns when I was like 21, 22, when it had just come out. And over the 12 or so years that it's been since it came out, I've continued to revisit it because I know what to expect. And I know what's in there is a disgusting thrill ride. Rachel selected Affinity by Sarah Waters. Now, I've read a few Sarah Waters books. I'm a huge fan. And in fact, she picked one of my poems to feature in a poetry anthology. I didn't get to meet her, but I will bring that up anytime she comes up in conversation because she likes my poetry and that's amazing. So I haven't read Affinity, but Rachel said it's one of the saddest books I've ever read, but I can't help how much I adore it. E.A. Brand, author of the novel Run Like Hell, which I edited, said even though there are some problematic things in the series, I periodically return to the audiobooks for Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files. The narrator, James Masters, has spoiled audiobooks for me because his performances are so incredible. Every few years, I'll do a full listen through from start to finish. Now, I've heard of The Dresden Files, and I know that Jim Butcher is pretty well loved. I see his books everywhere I go, but I've never read them. However, I do love James Masters. I grew up on Buffy. My name is Willow. And even though I often struggle with audiobooks, and I've talked about that before, I do really want to check this out, or at least check out James Masters as an audiobook narrator, because I can also read Run Like Hell when it comes out and hire me to be your editor. Thank you. Now, Nastya Morozova has said something that I think a lot of people would agree with, and yet few people would actually say out loud because there's such a stigma around it, and that stigma annoys me, although the stigma is declining slowly, and I'm really, really happy about that. Hentai manga. Nastya said, I have never been a manga reader in my youth. Under stress, though, I can go through up to 3 to 4 in one day as an addition to my regular reads. I'm very thankful to the enthusiasts who translate, de-censor and upload them online. Also, weirdly, I enjoy going through books on the anatomy of movement, muscles, joints, how everything works and relates. It's part of my job to know this stuff, but it hasn't been a comfort read before, more of a chore. The science behind it, the feeling that there is something sure, known about the human body, it soothes me. I guess science non-fiction would have the same effect. That is fascinating. Laura Vrend chose a book that I have been meaning to read for years and years. The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. Murder and medieval monks plus slogging through the first 100 pages of medieval Catholic politics equals cozy. And some people are going to think that that is an insane statement, but I fully get it. In fact, I get it so much in particular right now because I am currently playing through the video game Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is set in early 16th century Bohemia and is a role-playing game steeped in realism. You fall off a rock that's more than 3 feet high and you break your leg and need to get it fixed. You need to eat and sleep in order to keep up your health. You need to brew potions and forge swords very slowly at an alchemist's table or a blacksmith's anvil, and you have to do all of the actions that are involved into making a single potion or a single axe. It's all slow and methodical, and I am addicted to it. It's really challenging, it's very realistic, it's not what I'd call fun, and yet I can't stop playing. So this I fully understand. And now I really, really want to read The Name of the Rose. Zara said, Wild War Z and Fantastic Land are mine. Now I know my partner loves World War Z, but I haven't actually read it myself yet. But it does seem to be a comfort read for a lot of people. I've heard this more than once. When life gets too stressful, I pull out these books/audiobooks to soothe myself. I'm not a true crime or documentary person, but there's something about an outlandish, fictionalized account of zombies/teenagers going through Lord of the Flies that satisfies that itch. Here's a particularly interesting one. Stara Heron said, what comes to mind immediately is Watership Down. Oh god, okay. I'm not judging because this is mine. So I can't judge anyone. But oh my god, Watership Down? It's been a favourite since childhood, which always makes people give a bit of a side eye. I literally did, I'm so sorry. To be fair, it's probably because they associate it more with the animated film that so many found traumatizing as a child. Yes, I haven't read the book, I am just thinking of the film, which was rated universal here in the UK, which is the UK equivalent for E in the US, E for everyone, I think. I'll never understand that. But it was one of my favourite movies as a kid, which is why I pretty much demanded to have the book too. As an adult, it's now also likely I'll reach for my favourite little necromancer, Johannes Cabal. The Johannes Cabal series by Jonathan L. Howard, especially the first book, Johannes Cabal the Necromancer, is something I keep going back to in these very weird times for comfort. I also find comfort in rereading the works of C.J. Scherer, specifically the Faded Sun trilogy and the Fortress series. Those worlds and characters have become old friends to me now. I have no idea what these books are, but I really want to check them out. New recommendations, really always appreciated. Melissa Julwan says, I have two. The Wolf Hall trilogy by Hilary Mantel, I immediately get it. I only read the first one, but I can see how that would be a fun comfort. Kind of like The Name of the Rose, a very slow and deep pseudo-slog through the life of Thomas Cromwell. Yeah, there's something weirdly comforting in it. I think maybe it's the focus and attention that that book demands from the reader. Like, you can't half-ass it. You have to be in there. And that takes you out of where you are, which is your life and your body. So the escapism of it, while not entirely fun, is certainly relaxing and cozy in its own way. Kind of figuring this out as I think about it when I remember the time that I read it. I have no idea why a doorstopper about Thomas Cromwell is the bookish equivalent of toast and tea, but here we are. The other is any of the books in the Inspector Linley series by Elizabeth George. They're long, intense, British-style murder mysteries, but the character development is very good, and the crimes are often grisly. I guess it's comforting to have a cast of dedicated characters with integrity trying to restore justice, and they're very atmospheric, so they're great armchair travel to different spots in the UK. That's really interesting. See, I love mystery stories like the works of Agatha Christie, but I stay very, very far away from the more gritty crime dramas because I just find them a complete downer, like the works of Joe Nesbo. Like, spare me, I just can't do it. But if it's your comfort read, I'm not judging. I fully get it because mystery stories are known for being cozy. I find them cozy, and I do find weird, dark stuff cozy as well. So Put the two together and this is what you get. Eve Ballard chose The Future Won't Be Long by Jarek Kobek. I found it at a secondhand bookstore and thought it sounded interesting. I've read it 4 times now, and it's one of my favorites of all time. It's about 2 best friends in New York, 1986. It's about drugs, sex, clubbing, lifelong friendship, being gay in the 80s, and so much more. It's funny, but also brings up some serious issues. Yeah, being gay in the 80s was not fun. There is just something about the characters and how insufferable, but also purely human they are, that keeps drawing me back to their story. The Future Won't Be Long is definitely an underrated masterpiece. I mean, I've never heard of it, so I believe you. And finally, Adam Cook mentioned a book that I know he's mentioned before, and I really need to start paying attention to it because I know he's brought it up before and I need to invest some time in it. My comfort read is The Meaning of Night by Michael Cox. It's only about 15 years old, but it reads like it was written 200 years ago. It's a very romantic and depressing revenge story that gives Jack the Ripper vibes. It makes me feel so cozy. It's a genuine masterpiece that nobody but me seems to have heard of. I mean, yeah, I've never heard of it except from Adam when he's mentioned it on Patreon in the past. And it has stuck in my head because I know it's the kind of thing I'd enjoy. I need to find it. I need to actually wishlist it because I keep just not doing that. I'm so sorry, Adam. I will get there, I hope. Looking through all of these different cozy reads that my patrons offered up, a few trends that I noticed, and I'm sure you noticed as well, were unlikable characters being unlikable. Like, for example, in Boy Parts by Eliza Clark and My Choice, Prince of Thorns. Also, a few very heavy historical dramas. Heavy in a political sense, but also physically heavy, big, thick things. Like Wolf Hall and The Name of the Rose. The latter I haven't read yet, but I'm gonna get to it. And another trend is kind of darkening the traditional approach to coziness. Mystery stories, but darker, grittier crime stories. High fantasy stories, but make them darker. Make the people more horrible and psychopathic, like Prince of Thorns. Take cozy fiction and just twist it. Make it bleaker and darker, sadder, more monstrous. Inject it with something that makes it a distorted and uncomfortable version of the familiar coziness that so many of us love. Just the idea that we want something cozy, but we need it to have a darker edge to it to appeal to our sensibilities. Again, I'm really sounding like an edgelord here, but there's something to it. I know because this is my choice. This is my comfort read, and it's not nice. But when I need something reliably cozy, Prince of Thorns is what I turn to. But enjoying darker and more unhinged things as your cozy comfort read, it seems like it's a lot more common than I first thought. Which is why I'm really glad I asked my patrons about it because their answers were fantastic. So, let me know in the comments. Are you someone with a few unhinged comfort reads? Do you have any theories about why we find these darker, more unhinged things so comforting? And 50 points to anyone who finds Lapvona or Earthlings comforting and cozy. Because no one has mentioned these 2 books and I need to know who finds these cozy and comforting. If this is you and you're not a channel member or a patron, you are obligated to join. That's your reward. I don't know why. I don't make the rules. Just do it. Anyway, subscribe for books.